to the Bowden Blitz ACC edition. I'm Joe Lisi, joined by former National Coach of the Year, Terry Bowden. Coach, we're about a week away from college football, week 0 on the horizon. Last year in the conference, we saw Clemson and SMU battle it out. Both teams made it to the college football playoff, losing in the first round. Give me your thoughts about where the conference stands entering 2025. And is it possible to have more than 2 teams crack the college football playoff from the conference?
Well, I still see the conference being very much like last year. I still see Clemson and then Miami as the top 2 teams with the best chance of getting there. Clemson, except this year, I think they are loaded. I think they are more a team that can not only get to the playoffs, but go further in the playoffs, maybe even to the championship game. Miami's got to get the answer solved on defense and make sure Carson Beck does it well at quarterback. But those are the main 2 teams. And then you've got SMU, you got Louisville, Georgia Tech out there ready to shock anybody at any time. So I don't think the conference is definitely in a position where you get 3 as a guarantee. It can happen, but I do think you got to win maybe 10 games and go 10-2 to get to the playoffs from the ACC.
Yeah, it's possible. We talk about, the conference perception, ACC possibly behind the Big 12 out of the Big 4. You talk about SEC and Big 10 dominating the college football playoff, followed by the Big 12. We saw Arizona State make a run, and SMU was looked at for the full season, right, in the conference to be that contender until they ran up against Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. They lost that matchup 34-31. But when you look at Clemson and Dabo as a whole, you think of the 2 national championships that he won. He finally took in transfer talent this year. A lot of people expect Clemson to be that dark horse to possibly win a national championship. Does Clemson have what it takes offensively and defensively to win a title? And is Dabo still an elite head coach?
Oh, he's still elite. To me, the moves that he has made, has proven that he has still got the instincts, the motivation, the desire to be a top coach. He's got Clemson. To me, I was there. You remember in 2020 when they played for the national championship and lost. I was on that staff as an analyst. They were loaded, but so was LSU that year. I think Clemson's more along that line now, and I think it goes back to the defense, especially defensive line, the strength that they are there, back to the championship teams that they had there. That's where they've gotten stronger. And then Cade Kubiak, you got to see Cade is clearly one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Phenomenal year last year after the opening game with Georgia. So they've kind of got that great quarterback, strong talent across the board, and a great defense.
Yeah, when you talk about Dabo Swinney and you just talk about dominance, right? His overall record at Clemson, taking over for your brother Tommy Bowden, right? 180-47, that's a 793 winning percentage. But more importantly, Coach, you look at basically for a decade, since 2015, the Clemson Tigers own a 70-5 home record. That's a 933 winning percentage. They basically win every game at home. They did lose 2 games last year. Can Clemson step up against LSU week number 1 playing in Death Valley?
Both schools label their stadiums Death Valley, but I think Clemson is going to have the tougher one to play in this year, and I definitely think that's going to give them the home field advantage because of how well they play at home. Again, it's an incredible atmosphere. When they come down that hill after touching that rock there at the top of the hill, it's phenomenal excitement that comes through. But the biggest thing is they are loaded. Dabo Swinney did a couple things that you've got to do. If you're going to be a great coach and coach from decade to decade, you've got to be able to change and adapt. And remember, Dabo was not going to get in the portal. He was not going to play the portal game, but he said, you know what, if I'm going to last in the future of college football, I've got to accept the fact I've got to get some because I'm going to lose some. He made those decisions. He strengthened his football team. And I think he's making the move that the great coaches do. If you're going to coach from decade to decade, you got to be able to change and adapt. And I think he's doing that, as well as bringing in Tom Allen, the defensive coordinator from Penn State, brought in a top defensive coordinator because Dabo knows he's kind of an offensive coach, fools with the offense. He has got to have a great coordinator on defense like a Brent Venables that he had when he won 2 championships. I think he feels like he's got that now.
Yeah, Tom Allen, basically a better coordinator than he was head coach, right? From his days at Indiana, moved on last year, taking over for Manny Diaz and Penn State, a dominant defense, coached up Abdul Carter and the crew. And you talk about a Clemson defense coach that allowed 160 rushing yards on the ground per game. That is a cause of concern, especially when you look at the playoff loss to Texas. They rushed for over 200 yards. You look at the loss to Louisville in the regular season. Louisville averaged 7.1 yards per carry. If Clemson is going to make a national championship run, it's got to start with the front seven defensively. You're talking about a team that won 9 FBS games by an average margin of victory of 18.8 points per game. But if they're going to get back to the playoff, that defense needs to get better.
Well, if the spring was any kind of indication, their defense is back to where they want it to be, and it starts with the front seven. You got to, if you're going to be a championship team, you got to stop the run. That's even if teams like to pass a lot. If you stop the run, they're passing in pure passing situations, long yardage, when they don't want to pass the ball. And so that's what you've got to have. And I really think that's where it starts. That's where Clemson will look like the Clemson of old. And that's in their opening game. That's going to give, like LSU, the most difficult there. But I do believe, looking at their roster and watching them throughout the spring, talking to the people that I still know and worked with at Clemson a few years back, that they feel very, very good about the defense, the quarterback, and the strength of this football team.
We'll dive into that LSU game a little bit later in the week, but when you look at the conference as a whole, there's a new guy in town, a new old guy, right? Taking over for your buddy Mac Brown. I'm talking about Bill Belichick. He takes over the North Carolina Tar Heels. They do have a 7.5 win total this year. What are the expectations in Chapel Hill with possibly the best modern day head coach in the NFL, not college football, taking over for North Carolina and that team right now?
Well, you know, if he's done anything, he's already changed the expectations. The fans are excited. Tickets are selling better than they've ever been. Everybody's talking about the future. He brought in a new professional angle to recruiting. He brings an incredible resume, a belief by that they believe their program is going to go with him to another level. And financially, in recruiting, in the overall operations of their program, they think this is the next move if they're going to get to the top of college football, because they haven't been. And, you know, North Carolina, a little bit like Indiana, it was always that basketball school. But, again, they are right now counting on him. And, again, he is one of the best. My thing is not can he do it, does he really want to? I wondered when he took the job, why? Why are you going down to college at your age? Do you still have that fire? Do you still have that motivation? He has the knowledge. He can get it done. But I'm thinking, now he hired a couple of his sons, so you got to say, okay, family going down. If he is still motivated to go out there and just win because he loves to win and loves to build, I see no reason why he can't take North Carolina to the top of that conference.
Oh, absolutely. And when you look at the schedule, especially out of conference, their week one matchup is against Sonny Dykes and TCU. We'll see how that game plays out, but there's 3 winnable games for the North Carolina Tar Heels to at least start this season 3-1. You're talking about a defense in North Carolina that allowed well over 28 points per game. Not good against the run. From a discipline perspective, I believe Bill Belichick will be an added factor for that team to at least complete for 8 or 9 wins in the conference. When Coach and I return, we'll be breaking down all of the conference odds for the ACC. Joe Lisi, Coach Bowden breaking down the ACC odds right here on the Bowden Blitz. We'll talk Louisville, we'll talk Pittsburgh, we'll talk Miami, and all of the teams coming right up on the conference. Keep it where it is.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
He said that was his decision, not a smart baseball play. Like, shut up, Dave. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really. If Ohtani wants to steal third base on his own, let him steal third base on his own, bro. Like, he's Shohei Ohtani. He made the call. He was wrong. He was out. Okay. I wouldn't have called him out for it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Multiple times on 18 today. It was just so wild. I mean, the distances, JJ hit it to the exact same spot. He had 30 feet, 36 feet, and 30 feet, and made the second playoff hole, the 30-footer there. And then they go to recut the hole,
which I like. I like that, by the way.
Oh, I thought it was great, but I'm like, dude, he might hole out from the fairway. Like, they cut the hole where he's hit every single approach shot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
What would you tell the people right now, though? Like, okay, I like the Rams heading into the season, but I'm not sure about Matthew Stafford because people want to get their bets in. People want their team totals. People want to bet week number 1 here. So what's your prognosis on the Rams? We'll talk long-term in a second. Week number 1. Are we just going to say, like, yeah, he's ready. Bullets are flying. He looks great out there because he's a tough dude. But again, a back injury for a quarterback trying to get all that torque on passes, usually not good.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Back on the Bowden Blitz ACC edition, Joe Lisi and Terry Bowden breaking down the conference odds. We left off talking about Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, along with Bill Belichick and his presence in Chapel Hill. Coach, a lot of teams are high on a couple of, I want to say, dark horses in the conference. Georgia Tech and Brent Key, Haynes King of that team, return about 7 starters on offense. They're a 16-1 shot at the start of the year, about 2 or 3 months ago, to win the conference. Brent Key has done a fantastic job just making the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets very physical. They got the rushing defense down to around 115 rushing yards per game. They went toe-to-toe with Georgia in 8 overtimes, knocked off Florida State to start the year. Can Georgia Tech make a statement and possibly win the conference this year?
Oh, I think they've got a team that can compete, yes, and have a chance to win it. They're not favored, and you wouldn't pick them, but I like Georgia Tech and Louisville. But Georgia Tech, they have done a great job now. Haynes King at quarterback gives them a chance to score from anywhere on the field. They play with inspired football. The head coach, they believe in their head coach. Their fans are behind them full. And again, to end the season, taking Georgia to 8 overtimes, a team that won the conference, Georgia Tech, the SEC conference, tells you what kind of team they can have. So I really think they are a sleeper, but an upper level in that conference, along with Louisville.
Yeah, when you talk about a team that possibly can make some noise, you got to look to SMU. They were there with their quarterback Kevin Jennings last year. They did it. Rhett Lashley did with a defense that only allowed 110 rushing yards per game. They had the 7th best rush defense in all of college football. But you watch that game play out in Happy Valley against a more physical offense and defensive lines in the Nittany Lions. Can SMU bounce back and potentially challenge again for an ACC championship?
Well, you got your quarterback back, and Kevin Jennings is the strength of that offensive football team. They had an incredible year last year, but they won a lot of close ball games, and the question's going to be, are they going to make sure they win their close ball games? Because we're in SMU and you have a special year, it's not by dominating every game. I just don't think they have that kind of overall talent. But what they've got to do is continue to go out there, don't turn the ball over, give up big plays, and win the close ball games, because that's what they're going to have to do to be in contention for this conference.
Yeah, absolutely. A team that I like, Coach, and I don't know how you feel about them, but Virginia Tech was 6-7 last year. They lost all 7 games by an average margin of victory of 7 points per game. They were lost close. Their quarterback, Kyron Drones, comes back. Brent Key and that team physical at times, and I feel like their season, at least last year, hinged on the Hail Mary that wasn't, right? You can make the argument that the Virginia Tech Hokies should have knocked off Cam Ward and the Miami Hurricanes on the final play of the game, but it was a 50-50 ball. They ruled it incomplete, and Miami prevailed in that matchup. From that point, I feel like Virginia Tech was walking through the motions. They have a 6.5 win total this year. I think they can get over that, but more importantly, I think they could be a sleeper in the conference.
Well, they've got to improve and make sure they win their close ball games because, again, they did not finish strong last year at Virginia Tech. Now, again, they can be in the hunt. I don't have them really as one of those teams that I pick to be in that hunt. I think they've got to fight to get over that 6.5 wins to get there at 7. I do think they can get 7, but I don't see them quite getting in the hunt for the conference championship this year. They've got to make sure they're moving in the right direction.
Let's talk about the Miami Hurricanes because we're talking about Mario Cristobal. The expectation was there with Cam Ward in that offense. They lit up defenses, had to outscore teams. They were on the outside looking in. They lost the matchup to Syracuse and Georgia Tech down the stretch before the Bowl loss to Iowa State. Now it's Carson Beck's team. Can Carson Beck duplicate the type of productivity that we saw with Cam Ward and the Hurricanes offense last season?
He can't do it like Cam Ward did it. Last year, their defense didn't show up for a lot of football games. Cam Ward found ways to win his own talent, in his own abilities, whether it was scrambling, moving around, making incredible plays. I don't think that's what you're considering. Carson Beck, to me, he's got to manage the football team. He's not a great runner, but he is a very, very good quarterback, and he knows how to be a quarterback. But the key to Miami is getting that defense straightened out. Play great defense. They can't go out there and do what they did last year. Catch up. I thought they had a disappointing year last year with the team that they had. The number of NFL players, I want to say 8, were drafted into the NFL. With that type of players led by the number 1 draft choice, Cam Ward, I thought it was a disappointing year by the time it all got over, not making the playoffs. This year, I think the talent level is there again. They put their money in NILs. They brought in great players. And now you've got a quarterback that's going to be a good manager of our football team. He doesn't have a long resume, but he had a pretty good one. And he's a proven under pressure quarterback that knows how to play in big games. So I think they've got a different type of quarterback, but I think they've got one. If they built the rest of their team solid and their defense a little more solid, then we can see him leading them to a chance to compete with Clemson for the conference championship.
I totally agree. Now, you're right about Carson Beck, and I'll bring up a couple of factors. You look at Miami, they won 9 FBS games by an average margin of victory of 22.8 points per game. They had the number 1 ranked third down offense, converting 56% of their third down opportunities. But a part of that was because of Cam Ward, because of his elusiveness, because of his ability to keep his eyes down the field and make plays. Carson Beck is not as mobile as Cam Ward, and that's going to be a cause of concern for this offense moving forward. I will say this, the 2 losses that mattered for Miami last year, Coach, they gave up 64% to Georgia Tech on third downs for their defense and gave up 70% to the Syracuse offense in that loss on the road. That needs to get better if they're going to challenge for a college football playoff. Another team, Coach, that I'm high on that potentially could overexceed expectations is Pittsburgh and Eli Holston. This team last year was 7-0. They did limp after the loss to SMU. They lost 6 straight games by an average margin of defeat of 12.2 points per game. But from an offensive perspective, they could get over their win total this year and potentially challenge for an ACC championship. When Coach and I return, we'll dive into the players in the conference that should really challenge for a Heisman Trophy this coming season. Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, and some other quarterbacks and running backs that can challenge for the Heisman in 2025. Coming right back. Keep it where it is.
line odds for the Phoenix Mercury win the WNBA final. I'm saying it right now. Until I get Stewie back, and they can show me with Stewie, with Messerman, with Stewart, with John Quell, with Ionescu, with Phoenix, until I can see the Liberty look like the Liberty, which they have not been for a while, I'll be willing to say that Phoenix Mercury could make the WNBA finals.
In-game live only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Justin Rose has done it so many times in his career. That's like he's so good at everything. There's nothing that he's bad at. Every part of his game is at close to a elite level when it's good. And so when he had it going on this week, he's not scared, dude. When he gets that look in his eye, watch out.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
If you don't like getting hit, you can't do BKFC point blank.
Oh, absolutely. Like in the MMA world, you have opportunities to negate getting hit more so than BKFC. You can get a takedown, you can secure a dominant position where you're less likely to get hit, and even if you are getting hit, you're less damaging because of your position.
Combat Sports Report, only on SportsGrid.
Back on the Bowden Blitz ACC edition, breaking down conference odds. Also looking at the Heisman Trophy race. We know about Arch Manning and some of the other quarterbacks in the SEC and Big Ten. But, Coach, you mentioned Cade Klubnik and his odds. He's got a Week 1 battle against LSU and Garrett Nussmeier. Assuming that Cade Klubnik and the Clemson Tigers win that game at 9-1, not bad odds to start the year.
Klubnik's right there. Again, we got to remember about the Heisman. It's almost a publicity gimmick as it is the best player, because you've got to be preferably a quarterback on a winning team that has good statistics. If you're going to be another position, you got to do something crazy. You got to play two positions or both ways or have some phenomenal highlight films. But Cade Klubnik right now, he's on a great team, Clemson, got a chance to go all the way, and his statistics have been phenomenal. I think if you look at the NFL draft pick, you see Klubnik, you see him up there at the very top, Nussmeier, maybe Alar at Penn State. He is a great athlete because he's on that list of NFL prospects as of the first guys taken, and he's on a team that can win the championship. So when you look at Heisman hopefuls, you got to look at, obviously, you got to look at the position that's being played, quarterback mainly, but also can they be a winning, is he going to be on a championship caliber team? Is he going to take them to deep in the playoffs? And is he going to have some highlights on ESPN?
How important is the rushing attack to Klubnik's success? And I bring that up because, when we talk about Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson and those national championship teams, Clemson was averaging around 230, 240 rushing yards per game. They haven't been over 200 yards per game from an average perspective in basically 4 or 5 seasons. They averaged $173 on the ground last year. That was one of their better efforts dating back to 2020. If they can't run the football, can Cade Klubnik solely win games with his arm?
Down the road, as you get to tougher competition, either the teams like LSU that you open up with, or when you get to the playoffs, you're going to play teams with just as much talent. And if you can't be balanced on offense, your quarterback is going to be throwing the football when he doesn't want to throw it. Throw it when it's a long yardage situations. So you've got to get back to running the football like you used to. Now, Tony Ellett was the coordinator back then before he moved to Virginia, and it was a big part of his game plan. Sometimes when you get a coordinator, He may only want to run it 160 yards. The key is that when you have to run it, when it's important to run the football, you run it. You don't just put some yardage on at the end of the game after you get up 21 points and you throw about 60 or 70 yards of rushing in the fourth quarter. You can see through that. That's not how you do it. You got to run when you need to mix it up, and you need to mix it up in that first half.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll see how the Clemson Tigers have success against a revamped LSU Tigers defense week number 1 in Death Valley. The other quarterback we talked about was Carson Beck. I think, which Carson Beck are we getting, Coach? Are we getting the Carson Beck that basically won 29 of 30 games with the Georgia Bulldogs a couple of years ago? Or are we going to get the Carson Beck that threw for 175 yards on the road and 3 interceptions in the win versus Texas, and the loss against Ole Miss only threw for 186 yards with no touchdowns and an interception? That is the question regarding the Miami Hurricanes this year.
Talk about just a minute ago with running attack. I was at the Ole Miss game. They couldn't run the football. And Georgia last year did not run as well as they need to run it. And so he got put into a lot of situations where he had to throw it on our yardage. They had to throw too much in the second half. We can't scramble out of trouble as much. So I think his success at Miami is going to depend about them having a strong running attack. And I think with their offensive line, one of the strengths of their football team, they should have a good running attack. That should help him be a better quarterback.
A lot of talking in Tallahassee with Thomas Castellanos taking over from, moving over for Boston College. Can he be the real deal, and can he stun Alabama week 1?
I tell you, this is one of the more interesting selections in the portal is Tommy Castellanos at Florida State. DJU, that didn't work out. And so Norvell now has to turn and get another quarterback. And Tommy's got there's a little bit of conflict there. Is his attitude good? Is he a guy that the team can count on? He has a little bit of that. But I think when you bring in Gus Malzahn to run the offense and he works with the quarterbacks, I think Castellanos is the perfect quarterback for him. The dual threat, he runs probably a little better than he throws, but that'll fit Gus's offense just fine. I think the key is not just quarterback with Florida State; it's quarterback, offensive coordinator. Can that combination give him the change up on their offense?
Absolutely. And Mike Norvell and the Seminoles' backs are against the wall. You can't win 2 games and expect to be the head coach in 2026. Coach and I will be back later in the week breaking down week 0. We'll see you next week.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
He is not Derrick Henry. He is not one of those special backs in that sense. A really good one that's been outstanding in fantasy for quite some time. But you can also hear the buzz recently about it being more of a split backfield. And if that's so, then Aaron Jones' value takes a hit, Jordan Mason's value goes up, and there's an opportunity at some point if Aaron Jones misses time where you can see Jordan Mason take that backfield over.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
It's a safe shot, pin high left with a 6-iron. And then this is where JJ enters the fray again and hits this slice 5-iron. That was just, it curved probably a good, 30, 40 feet, almost flies in the hole. And it was just a crazy shot because nobody would ever really try to hit that type of slider.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
In extras, knocked out the Reds 6-5. This team doesn't lose. And the only thing I want to say, Tom, is I just hope they can continue this. Now, what does that mean? 40 games in a row? Of course we know it's not going to be the case. They are peaking right now. We've seen so many times. Baseball's a long season. Boy, if the Brewers were playing this baseball on September the 28th, watch out. But they are sensational right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.